Hello, this is Julian with Coffee Reviews, and today we'll be reviewing the Kamwangi AA Wash Process Kenya from Roseline Coffee Roasters. And there's the bag right there. I'm Roseline, based out of Portland, Oregon, and this coffee right here was featured in our most recent blind taste test rankings video, where it did finish third place out of 4 Roseline coffees on that day. Now, if you watched that video, then you'll see that we were able to immediately tell that this one was the Kenyan based off of the aroma alone. As soon as we picked up the cup and got a scent of this coffee, we were able to instantaneously tell it was the Kenyan based off of the savory component that was coming from the aroma. And much more than that, after tasting the coffee, it definitely had a more savory component relative to all the other cups of coffee on that table. If you've watched a lot of our reviews, then you'll know that we're not necessarily the biggest fans of savory Kenyans, so it's going to be interesting to see how this coffee was going to develop over time. Kenyans are always a fun review. This right here is day 19 of this coffee. And recipe we settled on for this coffee was a 16.67 to 1 water to coffee ratio at 208 degrees Fahrenheit, liked better through the Chemex, and that's a medium grind setting. And this is a light American for the roast profile. Let's go ahead and start discussing this coffee. So day 4, which was that blind taste test rankings day, we noticed that there was definitely that savory aroma, as we've kind of alluded to earlier, and there was much more of this savory component to the coffee as it had cooled down, and it was a traditional red fruit dominant acidity that was coming from the cup. But even then, it still left a pretty decent first impression. Was kind of liking the way this Kenyan compared to a lot of other Kenyans we've had in the past, so it was a pretty positive first impression. Day 7 liked the coffee a little more than we had based off of that first impression. Definitely a bit of the savory component still in this cup, and that was going to be present throughout the time drinking this. But we were also getting a fair bit of candy sweetness in the background, mostly this dark berry, and it remained ever so red fruit acidic dominant. Day 11 ran it through the V60, and we were getting some interesting things from this at this time. Earthy and herbal components in this cup as well. Lively body with a lively acidity, and it was a pretty heavy and intense cup as a whole. So a very interesting cup. Yeah, definitely very textured when run through the V60. Kind of fun. Day 14, the coffee had, again, some very heavy herbal components to it as well. Reminded us a little bit more of this darker and heavier tea with a very lasting tart berry acidity. So probably thinking maybe some darker currants, or most notably the flavor that I was picking up the most from this coffee, which was a cranberry. They have listed here pomegranates. I'm not going to lie, pomegranates are probably my least favorite fruit out there, but I don't know if I ever necessarily got too much pomegranate from this. Definitely more of a tart berry. Definitely feel like cranberry is a good one to go with. Day 17, coffee was actually growing on me quite a bit. I was actually enjoying the coffee a little bit more than expected. There's a really slight yet present sweetness in the finish that is a bit like a dark hard candy. And those are the really positive things about Kenyans that I've experienced. I'm not the biggest fan of the red fruit or the acidity, but the dark candy that comes from a lot of these coffees, these Kenyan coffees, are pretty nice. Lasting zesty acidity with some slight herbals. Pretty decent cup overall. I'm curious to see how this next sip's going to taste, but let's go ahead and put up the tasting wheel to see what we were getting. Yeah, this coffee's better today too, and that's just like the Guatemalan. All of these Roseline coffees have definitely improved over time. This is by far the best day of the coffee so far, so another coffee that probably would have been better days 20 plus. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk about this tasting wheel right here. So we have 3 things at a level 4 for this cup, and the finish, that's not too surprising. Kenyans do tend to have those very lasting finishes. The acidity at a level 4, also not surprising. Kenyans tend to be on the more acidic side a lot of the time. And the berry fruit at a level 4, we've been discussing that the red fruit, most notably berries, definitely present throughout the time drinking this coffee, the most common and dominant characteristic in this cup. So all of those justified. Let's see here. Cleanliness level 3. Honestly, I think that's pretty good. Anytime a Kenyan gets a level 3, a washed Kenyan still, that's pretty good at a level 3. Body level 3. Again, this is a very textured cup of coffee. So even here through the Chemex, which again is a lighter bodied brew method, it still has a pretty heavy body. So run through the V6, you're probably looking at a level 4. Savoriness level 3. I think that that's actually really, really good. That it's not too high, that it's about the same level as the sweetness. So that's really positive for this tasting wheel. Stone fruit, citrus fruit, both kind of toned down. Florals kind of toned down. Slight bit of spice and saltiness. For the most part, the only things that we weren't getting too much of were caramel and chocolate. Yeah, I think those are both probably ones. I don't know if I'm getting too much of those even on this day. All right, overall thoughts and impressions of this coffee. This one did end up being our least favorite of the 4 Roseline coffees that we do have, but even then, I think this is on the better end of Kenyans I've had this year, honestly. It's not quite as good as the Bolt. The Bolt was one of my favorite washed Kenyans of the year, and obviously the Kianjege, as well as the Coffea Circular, Ruby Batian. Those are all Kenyans that I was a huge fan of. This one's still, it's not the type of coffee that I would go out and buy an entire bag of myself, because again, just not the biggest fans of the savory red fruit Kenyans. But even then, I really enjoyed this coffee. I'm actually going to enjoy the rest of this coffee after this video is over, because I think it's kind of fun and it's nice, even with this red fruit tart berry that's coming from this cup of coffee. I think it's just better balanced than a lot of the Kenyans I've had, which tend to skew very strong towards the savory, very strong towards the acidic, and not enough sweetness in them. So that's why I think that this one's a really good Kenyan. Type of person I would suggest this coffee to. I think this is somebody that does like those, as I call them, more traditional Kenyans, and some people might call them more modern Kenyans, but the ones that do have the strong savory, the strong acidity, the very red fruit dominant characteristics, because this definitely does have all of those, but it's a lot more finely balanced. And I want to emphasize that as well, because I think even for somebody like myself that doesn't necessarily like those sort of coffees, I was really enjoying this coffee. I think the sweetness in this coffee is tremendous. So I think that Roseline did another amazing job with another one of their coffees, even if this one was the least favorite of my least favorite of the 4 coffees that they had in this. So I think I'm going to leave it at that. If you've by chance had an opportunity to try this Kenyan or any of Roseline's Kenyans, would love to know your thoughts and impressions of it, or them as well. If you're enjoying the content, give this video a like and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. This right here has been a review of the Kamwangi AA Wash Process Kenya from Roseline Coffee Roasters. Thank you for watching.